coronavirus. I know it's something all of us have been in panic mode about, and if you haven't, good for you. Although it is very serious, it's not something that we should just stress out like crazy over or make our situations worse by panicking. Again, it is serious, but do not panic. Okay, you get it. I know I have a ton of questions, you have a ton of questions, and something that will help us ease our stress is getting some of those questions answered, or as many as we can. I'm in contact with the mayor of Miami-Dade, Francis Suarez. About 6 days ago was diagnosed with the coronavirus as a confirmed case, and he's been doing diary entries. He's still working as mayor. He's feeling good. He's gonna weigh in and help give us some very first-hand perspective. Obviously everybody's cases are different. This is very serious, but it's also not something we should panic about, and here is why. All right, I have Francis Suarez, the mayor of Miami. First off, thank you so much for doing this and being willing to just do an interview right now, even after your confirmed case of the coronavirus, which, you know, a lot of people would be worrying about themselves, and you're out here just helping others. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It's a great opportunity to talk with your large audience of followers, and you know, this is something that has created a tremendous amount of anxiety for so many people. And in a weird way, sort of a backwards way, I feel kind of blessed because I'm someone that they can put a face to in terms of you know, what the anxieties that they're feeling before potentially getting infected with the coronavirus 19. And so it's given me an opportunity to make people feel a lot better, which is why I've been diarying every day.
Right, yeah, and that's amazing you've been doing that too. Where can they find your diaries that you're doing every day?
So I've been doing them on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Francis Suarez, FrancisSuarez. So that's where I've been doing it. I'm on entry number 6 today, which is day 7 since I found out that I was infected, or day 7 that I've actually had the infection. You know, and so far the symptoms are fairly mild, thankfully. I seem to be in that like 80% category of people that feel, you know, minor to mild symptoms. I was in a room with a person that was the confirmed positive. I went into self-quarantine like immediately, and then the Department of Health called me and they asked me to come in and take a test, which was last Thursday. And I woke up in the morning on Friday and they called me and they told me I was positive, which was obviously a big shock. I was asymptomatic, so I think that's also like really important for people to understand, is that even though you don't have symptoms, you could be carrying it. And so that's why, one of the reasons why I've been such a big proponent of social distancing, of staying home if you don't need to leave, because the people that are mostly at risk are our grandparents and people that have compromised immune systems, and our hospital system. Right now, I think our hospital system is really trying to grapple with how to deal with the flood of people that want to get tested and that unfortunately are going to become sick.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of those comments too, because before doing this interview, I asked a lot of my fans just to write in questions they want answered, because I know I have a ton too. But a lot of them were a little bit frustrated, saying that, hey, why do government officials get tests when I'm feeling ill? I have flu-like symptoms, but I wasn't necessarily exposed to somebody and I can't get tested.
So it's a very common question that I've been getting. First of all, in my case, they asked me to get tested. I didn't necessarily want to get tested. I was asymptomatic, and I would not have otherwise normally potentially gotten tested. But the Department of Health, because I was in a confirmed, and remember this was already a week ago, so this was kind of looking back. And I was, by the way, the second confirmed case in Miami-Dade County. So I was only the second person that was confirmed positive out of 2.8 million people in Miami-Dade County. So once that happened, I had to go public with it right away, obviously, because I've come into contact with hundreds, if not thousands of people. And we had two issues. One was reassuring those hundreds, if not thousands of people that I've come into contact with that they're okay.
Right.
And then the second part is we have a 4,500 person government, right, employees that service 500,000 people or 600,000 people. So that was the second issue that we had. This is never happened. This is unprecedented, right? So obviously the mayor, you can imagine how many of those people I come into contact with. So we had to test not only myself, but some high-ranking people that I was in close contact with to make sure that there wasn't a mass spreading of the virus throughout our government, which would render police officers unable to go and answer police officer calls, firefighters unable to help people that are potentially infected, and even picking up our garbage, things like that, which is what we do in the city of Miami. So that's the reason why I got tested, and I think the reason why some of our high-ranking officials, thankfully, all the city employees that came into contact with me have tested negative.
What does it take for a general public to qualify to be able to be tested?
So basically what they're telling me, and understand that as mayor, unfortunately, there are things that I control and some things that I don't control. And that's been one of the most frustrating parts of this is, as you can imagine, you probably get a ton of messages all the time on any issue that you talk about. So I get a lot of issues, a lot of messages from people about issues that unfortunately I don't control. And so hopefully throughout this discussion, we can talk a little bit about that so I can demystify it a little bit. But, right now the protocol that I've been told is if you are in direct contact with someone who is known to be infected, and B, you're displaying symptoms, you will get tested. And what I've been told is if you fall in that category, there are more than enough tests for people to be tested. The concern that I have, if you don't have symptoms, right, is right now I can tell you just in my conversations with hospital administrators that the hospitals are not yet quite set up to do mass testing. They're doing it, and they should be set up hopefully in the next couple of days. But the concern that I have for those who are not sure whether or not they're positive and are anxious is I don't want to send them to an emergency room where if they're not positive, they're going to be mixing with people that are positive and could get infected there. And that could be a very dangerous way of spreading the virus a lot more. And so unless you are in contact with somebody and are showing symptoms, you shouldn't. The most likely protocol is that you will not be tested. But again, that's going to change, I think, over time. I do think that there are a lot of people in Dade County that probably have it and don't know it. And so, because I can't imagine that I'm just the second person that had it. It's just too coincidental.
Yeah. Do you know how many confirmed cases there are in Miami right now?
Yeah, in Dade County, the last number that I saw was 78. Okay. But that number, I mean, even in the state, with these viruses, unfortunately, they grow exponentially. And part of the reason why I've been doing the diary is a lot of people are worried about getting infected. A lot of people are worried about getting tested. I'm infected. So I wanted people to know, okay, now if you're on the other side of the ledger, if by unfortunate chance you're there, there's no need to panic. You know what I mean? Most people will fall into the category of that I fall into, which is, I haven't had any fever. I haven't had any cough. I have, obviously you can tell, I'm sure by listening to me, that I'm a little bit congested. But basically the symptoms that I have right now are a common cold, and thankfully nothing worse than that for now. Again, I'm on day 7, and and we can talk a little bit about how I get out of this protocol as well.
You look more awake and lively than me right now, so I'm like...
I have not stopped working for the last 3 days.
Spreading the word.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy.
Do you know how many people in Miami have been tested, like in Miami-Dade, compared to?
Unfortunately, we don't have those numbers, and we don't control that information. So I have no idea how many people have been tested. What I do know is that the hospitals are working on either mobile testing sites or putting up tents outside of their facilities to have controlled testing. Because again, the most important thing before we even focus on the ubiquity of tests, right, or how many, everyone being able to get tested, we have to make sure that the people that we test, we can test them safely. That's the most important thing, because and you've seen there's some mobile testing going on in Dade County where people are lining up in cars and they're being tested in the cars. So the key is to be able to test people safely so that we don't spread the virus instead.
And there's no way they could do tests that were sent to people's homes, that they'd be able to like swab their own and send it back? Or...
I've heard that they've been doing that in Italy. I'm not certain, we're not quite there yet, but I have heard that that's happened in Italy and other places. What I can tell you is, even if you test positive, and this is something I think people need to understand, is let's say you do get tested and you test positive. All the doctors are going to tell you is go home. They're going to tell you go home and monitor yourself, and drink fluids, and basically the same kind of advice they would give you as if you're coming down with the flu. So even if you do test positive, what they're going to tell you is to go home. They're going to tell you to self-isolate, obviously, to quarantine yourself so that you don't spread the virus to other people. But essentially the remedy is to go home, to get, to be hydrated, to eat well, and to monitor your symptoms. Unless you're having shortness of breath or unless you're having symptoms that require you to be hospitalized, what happens with a positive result is basically you need to go home and be quarantined and monitor yourself.
When you're quarantining yourself and you do have shortness of breath or you need, extra help, you can't necessarily go straight to the hospital, right? Because you'll just infect more people with the virus, right?
So what we've done is we've developed a protocol in the city for 911 calls.
Okay.
So we've changed the way we ask questions when you call 911 and to screen people that may be infected. Right, and so if you are infected and you do need to be hospitalized, you will be hospitalized because at some point, there are people that are going to have to be hospitalized, and there are ICU cases in different parts of the country and in different parts of the world. And so we have, thankfully, thanks to our fire chief, who's been preparing for this, believe it or not, since the Super Bowl, when this started becoming a worldwide sort of phenomenon in China. We actually have protective equipment that our firefighters will go out to a person who's suspected to be COVID-19 positive and respond with protective equipment. If they have to transport the person in one of our fire trucks, we have a decontamination process that we do for the fire truck. We take it out of circulation. It gets decontaminated for a few hours, and then once it's decontaminated and has obviously poses no risk to the public, it can get put back into circulation. So we have a very, very strict process for making sure that our first responders and our equipment is not spreading the virus.
With your first responders, that's a great step in making sure it's not spreading to them as well, but you also have police officers out there, you have military out there enforcing mandates, so how are you making sure that it's not being spread to them as well?
And it's really tough because they're our front line, and so we're asking them obviously to respect social distancing, but they also have to ensure the public order. So it's really, really difficult. They're the ones that are most at risk, which is why we're asking people to stay home if they can. Obviously respect social distancing when you have to leave the house. We've closed down restaurants, bars, any places where people can congregate, and we're only having takeout. So you can go and get your takeout, but we don't want people to be having eating at a restaurant. We're one of the first cities to do that in the U.S. I've been in close communication with mayors throughout the country, mayor of Los Angeles, mayor of Dallas, mayor of San Francisco I spoke with today. And so we're trying to work together collaboratively as cities so that the curve starts to go down.
Just going back to the quarantine really quick, when somebody's diagnosed with the coronavirus and their confirmed case, how long do they have to be quarantining themselves until they get retested, or what's the process with that?
So what I would recommend is that you look at the CDC for that reintegration process. There is a testing process and there's a not testing process. The not testing process, like if tests are not available or if you can't get tested, it's obviously takes a little longer to come out of quarantine to meet the CDC protocol. I believe you have to be 7 days without symptoms and 7 days without medicine before you can break quarantine. And understand that there's two things. People talk about the 14 days. The 14 days are an incubation period where if you came into contact with somebody who's sick, you could get the virus within that 14 days. This protocol that we're talking about is now that you have the virus, the CDC recommends that once you have it, you have to write it out. Obviously, you're going to have symptoms. You're going to get sick, right? And then once you stop feeling sick, at that point, which can be 7 days, it can be 14 days, it can be 20 days. I mean, like a flu, you never know how sick, how long you're going to be. At the end of that period, however long that is, it could be 14 days, it could be more. Then at that point, you have to be symptom-free plus no medicine for 7 additional days. That's what the CDC has called for in their latest advisory. In the case of someone who can get tested, if you have no symptoms for 24 hours and you can get tested and you test negative, you have to test negative twice in a 24-hour period to be able to come out of the protocol. So I know it's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's good. It's thorough.
Yeah, it's a lot of information, yeah.
Yeah. But after you get the coronavirus, is it a situation where once you have it, it's always in your system, or are you immune to it forever? Is there a perk there? Like, what's the situation?
I hope it's not always in your system because I have it. So,
yeah.
But no, listen, I think, look, I've been talking to the Department of Health. I think it's kind of too early to tell, to be honest with you. I mean, they're still doing a lot of, they're studying this a lot. And there's no exact answers to some of those questions. I really think, unfortunately, Amanda, a lot of this is there's just not as much information as we like. This thing has hit us like a truck. The country, the economy, the world, and I think everybody is just trying to do the best that they can to grapple with this in a way that is responsible.
Right. There's obviously rumors that are floating around and things that's being said online, and you can't always believe what you read, but some of the things are about how the Florida heat and the sunlight can help lessen your chances of contracting the virus.
I mean, I've heard that. I've heard that the virus can be temperature sensitive, that it can be sensitive to, that it would last less in warm temperatures. I mean, honestly, I'm not a epidemiologist or an infectious disease expert, so I don't want to put something out there that may not be accurate.
And I guess the overall message is just the social distancing, and if you're going down to all the specific points like that of just being like, well, it's warm out, like maybe I can go to the beach today, it's like, you probably shouldn't. Just avoid those public spaces.
I think what's difficult about Miami right now is that it's spring break.
Yeah.
And so we had to make some really tough choices. They weren't tough for me, but some would consider them tough. We canceled Ultra. We canceled Calle, which were huge festivals. In the case of Ultra, you're talking about 150,000 people from 105 countries. I mean, imagine if those people would have been landing.
Yeah, Ultra's right outside my door. I'm almost like, it's like nice and quiet right now. There's no
imagine if those people would be coming now.
Right.
There would be like hysteria. And then the H Street Festival at Calle is 250,000 people in a street. So basically 10 blocks. So we did that early on. Some people criticized us, believe it or not, by saying that we were acting prematurely. Miami Beach came out and said, we're open for business.
Yeah.
And we saw what was happening there in the last couple of nights. So fortunately, as mayor of Miami, this is one of the things that I want your listeners to understand is I only deal with what's the territory of the city of Miami. So people think of Miami as a big brand, right? Like South Florida. Some people think like West Palm Beach is Miami,
right.
So I just want people to know that Miami it's the largest of 34 cities in Dade County, but we're only one city. I don't control the beaches. I don't control Kendall. You know what I mean? I don't control Broward and West Palm. And so they see things on the news and they send me messages.
Like, what are you doing?
Hey, why don't you shut down the beaches? Well, I don't have the authority to shut down the beaches.
Yeah.
So, I wish I did. People have messaged me, why don't you prevent banks from charging us our mortgages or stop people from charging rent? And I listen, if I had the power to,
right.
There would be something that I would obviously strongly consider because I think we're in unprecedented times and we're exploring it because this is so unprecedented that everything has to be explored. Every option has to be on the table. We understand that the financial impact of this is going to be devastating. That's, as bad as the virus is, people have been texting me from restaurants, people that work paycheck to paycheck and are really, really going to be struggling throughout this time. And so we're looking to the federal government, the county, the state, and obviously even ourselves to do everything we can. Like for example, there's no eviction order, so you can't be evicted, which is, I think, a good thing.
That's great, yeah.
They're not cutting off people's wireless. They're not cutting off. They're putting all Wi-Fi spots are going to be open. They're giving people the most broadband capacity. So again, everybody's kind of coming together. This is a time where you have to have good corporate citizens too, where people are like willing to make some sacrifices because. And I'm really thankful that you took the time to do this because share this on your platform because I think there's going to be so many people that are interested in knowing what's going on.
Oh, for sure. And that's that is reassuring hearing that a lot of big companies are doing that and even paying the workers like during their leave right now too, which is so important. And especially when they're able to do it, Sure. And that was like 1,000 list of questions that I got for you. You just answered them all in one group. A lot of it, because a lot of people are stressed and, that's a huge concern. Obviously, health is number one. But immediately after that, when you're all in an apartment or in a house together with your family, the next question is, how do I pay for food?
It's great to be healthy, right? But if you can't pay for food, then you have another major problem.
Right.
So, a lot of these problems people don't understand is they come into conflict with each other, right? Like, okay, well, if you can't, like, let's say we did a stay-at-home order, they call it a shutdown, right? Locking down the city. Well, okay, but there has to be some exceptions because people have to get out and buy food. People have to get out and be able to feed themselves. So, it does no good if we can't feed ourselves, obviously, so there are practical considerations. We're working through this, and we're looking at what other cities are doing to make sure that we're on the cutting edge as we've been throughout this entire process.
Yeah, and I have a lot of friends as well that I know suffer from anxiety and
Yeah, it's a big one.
depression, and they are on like level a million right now with all this going on, that the stress itself can eat away at them.
And I think that's why the video blog is so important because what I want people to understand is a lot of the stress comes from wanting to get tested, or a lot of the stress comes from am I infected, or a lot of the stress comes from, oh my God, what happens if I get infected?
Yeah,
Right,
the
all
unknown.
those things, right? But I'm infected, and so what I want people to understand is you can be infected and you're going to be okay.
Right.
Okay, 80%, if not 95% of the people are going to be okay. That doesn't mean that we should be irresponsible. It doesn't mean, on the contrary, right? There are very discrete categories of people that are at very, very significant risk. Elderly and people that have immunocompromised, immune systems are at a major risk.
Yeah, and a lot with the elderly too. Mental health is just as important as physical health, and with that, it's just being able to reach out to each other, even though we're social distancing. A lot of us need somebody to talk to. So even if it's not for ourselves, just reach out to your grandparents, see if they need anything. A lot of them are stubborn and gonna say no, but just, emphasize that you're there.
And remember that for us in our generation, we're lucky. We have we have these devices. We can talk to each other. I can't tell you the number of people who have texted me pictures of them having video dates and video, hangouts or whatever. So we have that ability to do that. And unfortunately, for the elderly in our community, they just don't. They didn't grow up with this technology. So they have they don't have the ability to interact, facially and sort of, so I think what you're saying is absolutely right. Obviously, please respect the social distancing, because what we don't want is those that are most vulnerable,
Right.
which is our elderly, being unfortunately.
Yeah, I know my grandpa canceled his 80th birthday party, and he was so sad because he has assisted living, and they just locked everything down, which is great.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like calling them every day, and it's just like the best gift to them ever. They're like, "We love this. You're calling us all the time now," and I'm like, "Mm-hmm." But on top of that, as much as we love our grandparents and the elderly, a lot of people love their pets too. And with the coronavirus, so animals can catch it, right? But can they transmit it to their humans? Or how does that work? Do you know anything about that?
I don't. Unfortunately, I have not heard that. I haven't been up to speed on the animal transmission possibility. But listen, I think we have to assume. Somebody actually said, and it actually made a lot of sense, we have to assume that everybody has it.
Right.
If you assume that everybody has it, then I think you're gonna act as if everybody has it. If you assume every dog has it, if you assume every person has it, then I think that is the best way, because then you're gonna be as conservative as you can in terms of how you interact with people.
Have you been emotionally impacted at all, or had some struggles yourself just being in quarantine by yourself for 6 days so far?
So I'm very blessed. You know what I mean? I've obviously haven't had any visitors, but I've gotten, so many text messages, emails, so much positive energy, so much positive, well wishes that, and I've been super busy. I mean, I've done probably 30 interviews, a ton of national interviews. I think I was obviously the only, elected official that has tested positive for COVID-19. So I've sort of had a platform to be able to talk about this. So I've been very, very busy. I probably, sometimes I'm probably too busy and overdoing it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's, it's kind of my nature, to stay busy and work. And I think that's kept me going for the last few days.
And you're still active as mayor right now. You're just full on.
I speak to my city manager, 3 times a day. I just got off the phone right before we did this interview with one of our elected officials. And we have 5 councilmen. So I try to stay in contact with them and make sure that they're getting all the updates on what we're doing, what we're thinking of, and to make sure that we're all acting together as a team. So I've been in contact with the mayors of Dallas, the mayors of Austin, Texas, the mayor of Los Angeles, the mayor of San Francisco. So mayors in the middle of the country, on the West Coast, and here, in the city, to just make sure that what we're doing is consistent. And making sure that we're sort of leading and being on the cutting edge of what our cities are doing.
it gives reassurance to a lot of people that I'm sure are watching and just being like, you know, do people even care about us, of what's going on? It's like, yeah, like you guys are real people too. You have it. You're going through it. So, you know.
But I think my situation is important, and it's important for me to do the diaries because I think people have to understand that maybe some of them have it and don't know it, because people understand that, hey, if I do get it, you know, it's not a death sentence. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's something that is manageable. It's something that if you're young and you're healthy and you take care of yourself, you know, there's a good possibility you're going to feel very, very, very little symptoms. I mean, I have had symptoms that are less intense than a flu right now. You know what I mean? I've been basically had a cold. I haven't had a fever. I haven't, again, had a cough. I had like a runny nose at the beginning. But that's been it. And listen, I'm hoping that's the end of it. You know, I mean, obviously I'm only in day 7 and I don't know how much longer this is going to be. And I'm hoping that this is the worst of it.
Yeah, same.
But thank you. That's why I've been doing the video journaling, because I think it really eases people up.
Yeah. With the coronavirus compared to the flu, what makes it that it's so much worse and so much panic going on around it is the thing that makes it scarier to some people, the fact that a lot of it is unknown.
We live in a world where, you know, the flu kills a lot of people every year. But the flu comes every year, and people sort of expect it. They understand when flu season begins. There's a vaccine. You can get inoculated. You know, and so there's a lot of information regarding the flu. With COVID-19, this thing happened from one day to the next. You know, the death rate, and maybe it's changed, but the death rate among the elderly has been even much higher than the flu for whatever reason. Significantly higher. If you're 80 or above, I think I've heard statistics of it's anywhere from 14 to 20%. That's really, really high. And then the other issue is there's no vaccine. We don't know whether it's going to come back. We don't know how long it stays in you. You know, some of these questions that you were asking earlier, we don't really have the answers to. So I think that's what creates a lot of the anxiety. But the good news is that there are people that have it. There are people that are living with it, like myself. And hopefully I'll recover for, you know, 100%. And you know, that'll give people hope that, you know, if you're in my situation, you know, you don't need to panic. You don't need to get so scared.
Yeah, because you have, even if you do get it, you know, there's a whole situation to call if you need more medical help. You have, you know, you have things in place to really help people.
There's resources.
Yeah. Sure. In regards to just being prepared and stocking up with food and supplies, to what extent should people be doing this? Because you see a lot on social media in general, my platform, where you see everybody just buying all the toilet paper there is and people putting restrictions out. And what should people be doing, and what can people chill out on a little bit?
I'm not sure why this disease has become the toilet paper disease, where people are like, everyone's buying toilet paper. Why in particular toilet paper? I mean, obviously we all have to use toilet paper, but
yeah, get a bidet.
Hey, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's just a bit of run on toilet paper.
Yeah.
But, you know, why not toothpaste?
Yeah.
But right now the supply chain is not interrupted. You know, what happens is when you have a hurricane, you have major potential to interrupt the supply chain, which is why people stock up. Right? You have the possibility of trucks that don't have gas, so they can't deliver, and you have the possibility of like interruptions in like transportation, right? Because if there's trees that are down or whatever, you know, you actually can't get from A to B. So as far as we know, there isn't any interruptions in the supply chain for things that are products like toilet paper that we can manufacture here locally. It's not like they're being manufactured in Italy or China and places that are, you know, sort of locked down. But yeah, I would urge people to just, you know, obviously you probably would want to have some level of stock, because if there is a city shutdown, even if there is a city shutdown, I can tell you that what has been done in other cities is you can't go out and buy essentials. So there's no city shutdown will prevent you from doing that, because you're going to have to do it. I just, you know, people can be calm that even if there is a shutdown, you're still going to be able to get food. You're still going to be able to get to your groceries.
Right. Yeah, it's just being prepared comfortably, but not just like taking everything from everybody else too.
Sure.
Community again.
Absolutely.
With this lack of tourism and cancellations, such as Ultra and Rolling Loud, which was super responsible on your end as well, good call. I think well, I know a lot of us are facing a lot of impact financially, especially those people out of work. Is there plans with Miami-Dade to help refuel the economy, after all this passes, which, positive energy, it will? Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have all the answers right now because this is a very evolving thing. And but I trust me, I get the messages as well, and I know that there's significant anxiety about how this is going to impact people's lives, and not just the disease side, but also on the economic side. So we're conscientious of that, and we're going to be working on that as much as we can.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have some sort of prediction with the duration of the social distancing? I'm assuming not, considering like a lot of things are just still question marks, but also with any upcoming mandates that may be put in place, or are we seeing like the most amount right now, or what to expect?
There's still another level that a city can do like us, which is basically a stay-in-place order, or like some people will call it a shutdown or a lockdown. Obviously, we're considering all that. We want to make sure that we can stay ahead of the curve and bring the curve down of cases. It's just a tough time, and so we're considering all our options. So I mean that might happen. It's very possible that it can happen.
Okay. And if this persists, what will happen with the schools, the school tests, the college exams, the tuition, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, look, I mean, again, this has very broad ramifications.
Yeah.
When you talk about all the downstream consequences. We don't control the school system, but I suspect the school system is going to be affected for a while. I know people are already homeschooling. You see all the memes of people homeschooling with their kids.
Doing the chores. That's the homeschool. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's a domestic affairs 101.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of that. It's impossible to tell how long this is going to last. We've seen the curves come down in China, and we're hopeful that if we take dramatic action, this will come down sooner rather than later. Even in an individual case, I don't even know for myself yet when I'm going to get out of quarantine. So if me, who was one of the earliest cases, doesn't know that, and obviously a government official with access to a lot of health information, then I think we're in for at least a couple of weeks, and I'm saying at least a couple of weeks, if not significantly more time.
Gosh, your diary entries are going to be so helpful to the people that do get confirmed cases, just to see like the process of everything. I think is super helpful and calms people down a little bit, even though everybody has different symptoms and situations, and it's important to keep that in mind. But yeah, you're just helping a lot of people with this, so thank you very much. And also helping my audience, because you answered a ton of their questions, a ton of my questions, and you're in quarantine right now and you're sick. Even though you're not feeling sick, you're still taking the time. So again, I just want to thank you, and thanks for taking care of us as mayor, and then also just as human to human. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. You have a huge platform, and I think people really look up to you and admire you, which is why you have so many people that follow you. And it's really just a great opportunity in a new way, technologically, to get the message out there and to talk to people who are probably feeling very, very anxious right now.
Yeah, let's calm them down a little bit, but remain safe. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff.
Thank you, Amanda.
Mwah, feel better. Hugs and
Thanks,
kisses.
appreciate it.
I hope I can make your day a little bit better and give you a little bit more information. And again, I know it's annoying to hear from me, but you can't stress about the uncontrollable things in life. You just gotta take them and just try your best to find that silver lining and find different ways to be able to enjoy your day, whether it's studying, whether it's just meditating, so many different things. Just don't stress out too much, okay? I love you. Mwah.